Did you know one tiny menu setting can quietly kill a $9,000 Mercedes transmission? Dealers know exactly which settings cause the damage, and they never mention it at your service appointment. Today, we expose 15 Mercedes settings secretly grinding your gearbox to dust, ranked from bad to catastrophic. Stick around for number 1. It has destroyed transmissions in under 20,000 miles. Let's start with number 15. Number 15. Eco Start Stops. Left on every single drive, dealers love Eco mode. It makes the fuel economy sticker look great on the showroom floor, and it makes the salesperson's job easier when a nervous first-time buyer starts asking about gas prices. What they will not tell you is that constant engine shutoffs at every red light hammer the transmission's hydraulic pump thousands of extra times a year. Every single restart forces fluid pressure to rebuild from zero. That repeated cycling wears internal seals faster than steady highway driving ever would. Marcus, a mechanic in Atlanta, Georgia, sees this weekly in his shop. He pulled apart a C-Class with only 55,000 miles and found premature pump wear that should not happen until twice that mileage. The shop quoted the owner $2,200 for the fix. Marcus says almost none of his customers know the button even exists, let alone what it costs them long term. He now keeps a printed sheet at the front desk explaining the button. He got tired of explaining it verbally 5 times a day to confused customers who had no idea what he was talking about. According to his own shop notes, roughly 6 out of 10 Mercedes coming in for transmission complaints still have Eco Start-Stop switched on. He says most of these owners are shocked, genuinely shocked, when he shows them the little button they have been ignoring since the day they drove off the lot. Eco Start-Stop shaves pennies off your gas bill at the pump and quietly bills you thousands later at the shop. That is the trade nobody explains at delivery, and dealers have zero incentive to bring it up. Service revenue depends on repairs, not on prevention. Disabling Eco Start-Stop takes roughly 3 seconds through a single dashboard button every time you start the car, yet almost nobody does it consistently enough for it to matter. But that pump wear is nothing compared to what happens when you leave one lever setting alone for years without ever questioning it. Number 14. Ignoring the direct select lever, position indicator. Here is a dirty secret. Half of Mercedes owners do not fully understand what M mode on that column stalk actually does. Dealers are perfectly happy keeping it that way because confused customers rarely complain. They just quietly pay for repairs later. Leaving the transmission stuck in manual hold during regular city driving forces the computer to hold gears way past their intended shift point. Revs climb higher than they should. Heat builds fast under that extended load. Fluid breaks down faster than the maintenance schedule accounts for. Sandra from Dallas, Texas drove her GLC in manual mode for 8 months, thinking it gave her better control over stop and go traffic. It gave her a burnt clutch pack instead, and a very unpleasant surprise at her next service visit. Repair bill, $3,100, paid entirely because of one lever position she never questioned. Sandra told us afterward that nobody at the dealership had ever walked her through what the M actually stood for when she bought the car. By the time she figured it out on her own, the damage was already sitting inside the gearbox. Shops profit twice here. They profit once from the confusion that keeps drivers uninformed, and once from the repair bill that follows months later. That is not an accident. That is a business model built on a single unexplained button. It works because most owners assume a car this expensive would never let them make a mistake this easily. If you are learning something new right now, hit that subscribe button. The next one on this list is even sneakier and even more common than this one, hiding in a spot most owners check every single day. Number 13. Disabling adaptive shift program. Without knowing it, your Mercedes constantly studies your driving style through Agility Select. It adjusts behavior in the background without ever telling you directly what it changed. Aggressive driver, it shifts later to keep power on tap. Gentle driver, it shifts earlier to save fuel and reduce strain. Some owners toggle through menus while exploring features and accidentally lock this feature off. This forces static shift patterns that no longer match real road conditions. That mismatch means harsher engagement at every single shift, day after day, without the driver ever noticing anything changed. A $15 diagnostic scan catches this instantly at any competent shop. Most owners never run one because nobody tells them the setting even exists to check. A locked adaptive program grinding away for 2 years straight versus a $15 scan that catches it before real damage starts. That is the math nobody at the dealership does for you out loud. A $15 scan does not pay for a service bay the way a rebuilt transmission does. Comment below if you have ever actually run a full diagnostic scan just to check your shift program, because we suspect almost none of you have. This one setting alone accounts for a surprising share of the complaints flooding online owner forums every single month. Most of those same owners never once suspect suspect a menu toggle could be the actual cause. And the next setting on our list hides in a menu almost nobody checks, which makes it even more dangerous. Number 12, kickdown abuse through the accelerator's hidden pressure point. There is a resistance point buried deep in the gas pedal, right before the floor. It is one most drivers have felt 1,000 times without ever knowing what it actually does. Push past it and you trigger kickdown, an aggressive downshift meant for emergency overtakes only. It is not meant for everyday fun. Plenty of drivers mash through it constantly just to feel that shove of power on the on-ramp. James, a technician in Houston, Texas, calls it the #1 silent killer of E-Class transmissions he services on a weekly basis. Repeated kickdown abuse chews through clutch material fast. It happens far faster than the factory ever intended for daily commuting. A transmission built to survive 200,000 miles can fail at 90,000 miles when kickdown becomes a daily habit instead of an emergency tool. James says the pattern is almost always the same. It is usually a younger driver who loves the launch feeling and has no idea the pedal has 2 distinct stages built into it. They find out right up until his shop hands them a bill that finally explains it for him. Most shops will test kickdown wear for under $20 using a simple diagnostic pull. Most shops also make zero profit on a $20 test and thousands of dollars on the rebuild that follows, $20 of prevention, or $9,000 of steel shavings in the fluid pan. That is the real math behind every single kickdown habit. Number 11 gets even more expensive, and almost nobody sees it coming until the bill arrives. It hides behind a single word Mercedes has used in its marketing for over a decade. Number 11, trusting. The lifetime fluid label. Completely. Mercedes marketed certain transmissions with lifetime fluid claims for years. The phrase stuck in owners' minds far longer than the engineers ever intended it to. Owners heard lifetime and stopped thinking about fluid service entirely. They filed it away as one less thing to worry about. Here's the truth the marketing conveniently skips over. Engineers define lifetime as roughly 100,000 miles under ideal conditions, not forever. It definitely does not mean forever under stop and go city driving. Diane, a nurse from Denver, Colorado, drove her ML 350 for 140,000 miles without a single fluid service. She skipped it because the manual implied she never needed one. Her transmission slipped on the highway during a family road trip, leaving her stranded on the shoulder with 3 kids in the car. Repair cost? $4,800, plus a tow bill she never budgeted for. Diane later found out from an independent shop that fluid this old typically shows a pH shift dark enough to see with the naked eye. This was a warning sign she never had the chance to catch because nobody ever pulled the dipstick to show her. The fluid that supposedly never needed changing 40,000 miles earlier than her failure point. $300 for a proactive fluid service versus $4,800 for a highway breakdown with kids in the back seat. That is the entire lifetime fluid myth in one simple comparison. That single marketing sentence has funded more transmission replacements across the Mercedes lineup than any other myth on this entire list. What is coming up next is a setting most people activate completely by accident and forget about for months. Number 10, the winter mode button. Left. Active into summer. Winter mode softens throttle response and forces higher gear starts to fight wheel slip on ice and snow. This is a genuinely useful trick engineered for a very specific season of the year. Great in January, absolutely terrible in July, when the transmission keeps launching in second or third gear under full engine load. The car delivers power meant for smoother snow starts, not summer heat. That mismatch generates heat the cooling system was never designed to handle during daily summer driving conditions. Owners who stack winter mode on top of an already hot climate are essentially asking the transmission to run a fever every single trip. This happens week after week without ever feeling anything different from the driver's seat. If you think that is bad, wait until you see what a stuck heat cycle does to internal seals over one single hot season of daily commuting. Check your dash icon right now, seriously, and pause the video if you have to. A tiny snowflake symbol sitting there in the middle of July is not decoration. It is a warning sign your transmission is quietly overheating every single trip. Dealers rarely mention this during a seasonal checkup. A quick reminder to tap one button does not exactly justify a service appointment on its own. But hold on, that snowflake icon is nothing compared to what's sitting on your dashboard at number 9. Number 9, ignoring the transmission. Temperature. Warning. On the cluster. Most Mercedes owners have never once seen this warning light up. That is exactly the problem with how rarely it gets explained during regular ownership, let alone at the time of purchase. It only appears when fluid temperature crosses a genuinely dangerous threshold. The alert triggers usually pass 240 degrees Fahrenheit under sustained load. By the time it shows up on the cluster, damage is already happening internally to the clutch packs and seals. A 5-second glance at the cluster during a long tow or a mountain climb costs absolutely nothing. A blown transmission on the side of the highway costs thousands of dollars and a very long wait for a flatbed truck. The delay usually happens in whatever weather is least convenient at the time. Most owners' manuals bury this warning on a single page nobody ever reads, past the table of contents. A shop test for fluid temperature sensors runs about $30. Ignoring the warning light entirely runs into the thousands once the damage sets in. By then, the fix is a full rebuild, not a simple sensor swap. The industry counts on drivers never learning what that symbol actually means or when it should worry them. That is exactly why dealers rarely explain it in detail during delivery walkthroughs. They focus on selling you extended warranties instead of teaching you what the warning lights on your own dashboard actually mean. A warning light is easy to miss. That's bad enough. What's worse, however, is that number 8 is a habit you don't even feel happening. Number 8. Overriding. Auto hold. On. Steep hills. Constantly. Auto hold keeps the car stationary on inclines without you riding the brake or throttle awkwardly. Some drivers find it mildly annoying and disable it permanently. They then compensate by slipping the transmission between drive and neutral to hold position on hills manually. That habit stresses the torque converter in ways engineers never intended it to handle on a regular basis. Robert, a longtime tow truck driver in Denver, Colorado, has hauled at least a dozen Mercedes SUVs off steep neighborhood streets for exactly this reason over the past few years. Every single one had the same worn torque converter symptoms once the shop opened it up. Robert says most of these owners genuinely thought they were being gentler on the car by avoiding auto hold. In reality, they were doing the exact opposite the entire time. A torque converter rebuild after habits like this typically runs well over $2,000. All of this is to avoid a feature that was already built in, tested, and free to use from the very first day. If you are enjoying this list so far, go ahead and smash that like button. Number 7 is where things start getting genuinely dangerous for daily drivers who have no idea they are doing it every single time. Number 7. Running Sport Plus Mode. For daily commuting, Sport Plus holds gears longer, shifts harder, and keeps engine speed elevated for maximum aggression on demand. This is exactly the way it should feel on a closed mountain road with nobody else around. It is built for occasional canyon runs on a weekend. It is not meant for a 40-minute daily commute stuck in stop-and-go traffic. Constant hard shifting in congested conditions is one of the fastest ways to age clutch packs prematurely. It easily shaves years off their expected lifespan. Tyler from Phoenix, Arizona left his C43 in Sport Plus for an entire year. He did this because he genuinely liked the exhaust note it produced at every shift. His transmission started shuddering at 62,000 miles. This was years earlier than the factory expected under normal use. When he finally brought it in, the shop found clutch material where consistent with a car that had done twice his actual mileage. That is exactly the kind of number that makes a technician quietly shake his head. A mode meant for 20 minutes on a mountain road was running instead for 365 days straight without a break. That is not enthusiast driving. That is a slow-motion repair bill quietly building in the background. Dealers rarely warn buyers about this at delivery because Sport Plus is one of the features they use to sell the car in the first place. But at least Sport Plus damage is loud. Number 6 does its damage in total silence. You wouldn't even notice until it is too late. Number 6. Disabling. The gliding coasting function. On the highway, many Mercedes models include a coasting feature that decouples the transmission at highway speed when you lift off the gas pedal. This saves fuel and reduces wear on internal components most drivers never think about. Owners chasing a sportier feel often switch this off through individual mode settings. They do this without ever realizing what that function actually protects underneath the hood. Without coasting engaged, the transmission stays under constant load during every single highway deceleration. This adds thousands of unnecessary work cycles annually to a system designed to rest during those moments. Most owners who disable this setting are chasing engine braking they saw on a different, sportier car. They do not realize a Mercedes sedan was never built around that same philosophy. It costs nothing to leave coasting switched on. It can quietly add years to the transmission's working life without you doing a single thing differently behind the wheel. Most drivers who disable it could not even tell you it was gone. It is just one overlooked toggle buried 3 menus deep. Thousands of extra load cycles get racked up every single year without the driver noticing a thing. They never connect the dots between a menu setting and a repair bill months down the road. That is the quiet cost of chasing a feeling instead of understanding the function underneath it. A silent toggle is one thing. Number 5, stranded an entire work crew on the highway. Number 5, towing or hauling. Without switching to the correct load program, Mercedes SUVs include a dedicated transmission program for towing. It is designed specifically to shift earlier and manage heat under heavy sustained load. Skip activating it, and the transmission behaves exactly like you were driving empty. It reacts this way even with 3,000 pounds hitched up behind you on the highway. Carlos, a contractor in San Antonio, Texas, towed a work trailer with his GLE for 2 full years in standard mode. He never switched the setting, mostly because nobody at the dealership ever mentioned it mattered. His transmission overheated on a highway grade just outside the city. The breakdown stranded his entire crew for hours. In brutal Texas summer heat with a trailer they could not safely leave behind. The tow program exists specifically to prevent exactly that kind of failure from happening on a job site deadline. Activating it takes about 4 seconds through a single menu screen. Skipping that menu screen is how a routine job turns into a 5-figure repair bill and a canceled contract. Carlos now tells every contractor he knows to check that one setting before hitching up anything heavy. Skipping it costs nothing at the exact moment you do it. It costs everything 3 states later on a hot afternoon with a trailer full of equipment and a crew waiting on you. As if a trailer breakdown isn't bad enough, Number 4 is happening right now, in your own driveway. Number 4, letting the car sit with the engine running in park for long periods. Idling for long stretches keeps the torque converter spinning without the proper fluid circulation designed for actual driving conditions. People do this when warming up the engine on a cold morning or running errands with the air conditioning on. Extended idling generates surprising heat buildup inside the transmission. There's almost no cooling airflow moving through the radiator to offset it, since the fans depend heavily on forward motion. It feels completely harmless because the car is not moving an inch. It is not harmless at all for the longevity of your transmission parts. 10 minutes of idling here and there feels like absolutely nothing in the moment. Added up over an entire year of quick errands and short waits, and it results in hours of unnecessary heat stress. Shops rarely mention idling habits during a checkup because there is no simple button to point to. It is a conversation nobody wants to have with a customer. Conversations do not show up as a line item on an invoice. Because of this, nobody ever brings it up during a routine oil change or inspection. Idling quietly wrecks a transmission, but it isn't even the worst thing. Number 3 is a fix your dealer never even told you about. Number 3, ignoring software updates that include transmission control modules. Mercedes regularly pushes control module updates through dealership service visits. Many of these updates directly correct shift mapping and clutch engagement timing behind the scenes. They roll out these changes without ever being announced to the customer directly. Owners who skip routine service visits thinking their car runs perfectly fine miss these silent fixes entirely. Outdated software can keep running an inefficient or even flawed shift pattern for years. This happens long after Mercedes engineers already solved the exact problem internally. These fixes deploy through an over-the-air or in shop correction. These updates almost never get advertised to the owner directly. They just quietly sit in the service department system waiting for a visit that may never come. Sometimes they sit for 2 or 3 years at a time. A free software update is sitting there completely unclaimed at your local dealership right now. Alternatively, you face years of a known flawed shift pattern grinding away underneath you every single drive. That is the choice most owners do not even realize they are making every time they skip an appointment. Drop a comment below with the current mileage on your Mercedes right now. We genuinely want to see how many of you are overdue for this exact update. A software update at a routine visit typically costs nothing beyond the visit itself. Skipping it can quietly cost you a shift quality that never gets fixed until something breaks. This occurs years after the fix was already sitting there waiting on the dealership server. A missed update is bad, but number 2 turns a fun feature into a $5,000 bill. Number 2, manually forcing downshifts at high speed. Using the paddle shifters feel genuinely fun to use on the road. Slamming a manual downshift at 75 miles an hour asks the transmission to match engine speed instantly under extreme mechanical load. The gearbox was never built to absorb this on a daily basis. Do this repeatedly on your regular commute and clutch material wears at an extreme rate. The factory never engineered the car for this outside of an actual racetrack environment. Priya, an engineer from Seattle, Washington, loved downshifting on the highway purely for the engine braking feel. Her dealer quoted her $5,600 for a full rebuild at just 94,000 miles. This was far earlier than expected for her driving style on paper. Priya told us she genuinely thought manual paddle downshifts were the safer, more controlled option. In reality, they were the exact opposite for her particular driving habits. She only understood her mistake once the shop showed her the worn clutch material sitting in a scrap bin. Track cars get their clutch packs rebuilt regularly because competitive racing demands that level of wear. Racing teams budget thousands of dollars for exactly that kind of maintenance every single season. Your daily commute does not demand that, unless you treat every on-ramp like a personal racetrack without the budget to match. $5,000 sounds bad. It couldn't possibly get worse, right? Wrong. Number 1 has ended more transmissions than everything else on this list combined. Number 1, disabling the transmission fluid service reminder. Entirely, this is the one. Some owners find the reminder mildly annoying and simply turn it off in the settings menu. They believe it is just a nuisance notification, like a tire pressure nag they can safely ignore without any real consequence. It is not a nuisance at all. It is the single early warning system standing between routine, affordable maintenance, and a full, expensive rebuild down the road. Once disabled, most owners genuinely forget the transmission needs attention at all until it fails completely. Sometimes it fails under 20,000 miles after a fluid change was quietly skipped, following a prior ignored warning. Service advisors we spoke to say this single disabled reminder is a common thread. It connects nearly every early transmission failure they see walk through the door. It is more common than any other habit on this entire list combined. A transmission fluid service costs around $300 at most independent shops. A full transmission replacement costs upward of $9,000 at the dealership. Turning off that one single reminder is the single most expensive click in your entire settings menu. Almost nobody realizes they made the mistake until years later. $300 now, or $9,000 later. That single number is the entire argument for turning that reminder right back on tonight, before you finish watching this video. Thanks for watching. If you found these Mercedes secrets helpful, let us know in the comments below. Want to see which luxury brand actually has the worst transmission reliability record on paper? Click on the video to the left right now. It might completely change what you buy next. And if you don't want to miss more hidden features and dealer secrets, hit that subscribe button.